Am I the only one that prefers sourdough sandwich bread over the artesian loaves? They are pretty, but I feel like this is more practical. So let me show you how I make mine. I start with warming up 340 grams of milk and 340 grams of water. You can do either all milk or all water. In a bowl, I'm going to do 200 grams of active sourdough starter. Once my liquid is warm, I'm going to add it to my starter, and then I'm going to add in softened butter. Then we'll do 20 grams of salt, 60 grams of honey. You can do sugar or maple syrup or brown sugar. Then we're going to give it a stir until everything dissolves. Last, we'll add 1,000 grams of flour. You can do all-purpose flour, bread flour, or half and half. Mix until you get a nice shaggy dough. Then we will cover it and let it sit for 30 minutes. Get your hands slightly wet, and we're going to do our very first stretch and fold. Everyone does this differently, so do what works for you. I do mine by pulling each side up and folding it back on itself. I turn the bowl to get all sides. Once I'm done with the stretch and folds, I like to put it back into a nice ball and cover and let it rest for 30 minutes. Then we'll come back and do another stretch and fold, and you'll notice how stretchy it gets every time you come back to do these stretch and folds. You'll do this the same exact way you did the first one. And don't forget to get your hands slightly wet so the dough does not stick. And once again, once I'm done with my stretch and folds, I'm going to turn it back into a round ball, and I'm going to cover and let it sit for another 30 minutes. You can see it's getting nice and stretchy, and there's bubbles already starting to form. One more stretch and fold the same exact way, and once that's done, put it into a ball, cover, and we're going to do our bulk ferment. I ended up letting it bulk ferment for about 7 hours, and look how perfectly it just falls right out of that bowl. And that is exactly what you want, and you know that your dough is ready. I'm going to divide my dough into two. You can eyeball this, or you can weigh each one to get the same amounts. We're going to laminate the dough, then we're going to fold each side over, then we're going to turn it into a log. And this part is where you pull and tighten the dough so that when the bread rises, it can hold its shape. Do this with both loaves. I put down parchment paper. I've never tried this, but I just figured it would be easier, and it was. I was able to pull the bread right out once it was done. Once you have them shaped, we're going to cover and let them sit for about an hour or two, depending on how cold your room is. You want them to be slightly domed out of the pan, and that is when they will be ready. I brush mine with milk. You don't have to do this, but it gives them a nice golden crust. Bake for 45 to 50 minutes at 375. Once they come out, I brush mine with butter for a nice soft crust. Immediately remove them from pans, otherwise they will sweat and get all soggy. Then let them cool down for 30 minutes to an hour before slicing to avoid getting a gummy crumb. It gets really hard to wait, but it will definitely be worth the wait.